Okay, that's all swell, but what does that mean to us? I'll just point this out. You know, Ueshiba would give these lectures, and the people he was lecturing are not stupid. I'm sure there were some stupid people in there. There always is, right? But they would understand. They would be able to read these characters. These are not, extraordinary characters, and these are not extraordinary ideas. And so they would understand, at face value what this is. And they would recognize that, gee, yeah, he's talking about some cosmology. But the big question is so what, right? The old guys up there lecturing about this stuff, and somehow, one way or another, it relates to the practice, the physical practice that we're doing, but I'm not exactly sure how. Well, I want to tell you what he meant when he did this, okay? That brings us to our Aikis again. Now, Aiki number 1, I'm going to use this as a metaphor. We have this tissue, we have this outer skin, and it can be brought into tension. And it becomes very good at dissipating force when it comes into it. The greater tension, the greater ability it has to dissipate the force all over. In other words, you can kind of see here that I can deform this. It doesn't have enough tension that the amount of force of my finger can deform it. All right? We would like it to be strong enough that my finger, it equals the force of my finger, and consequently my finger feels like, gee, I'm not getting any force in, and all I have is my force coming back to me, and that's Yamabiko, the mountain echo. That force echoes back to you. Okay, now I'm going to relate that to kokyu and kokyu ryoku. All right, so kokyu is breath, as you know, and breath is constituted of inhalation and exhalation. So you have niki within kokyu. So kokyu is like ichire, and the inhalation and the exhalation are like niki. And it's all controlled, of course, by our consciousness, whether it be unconsciousness or consciousness. And there's where the man comes in. Again, we get this interpenetration thing. So imagine this is filled with air, and the air is trying to expand, and the skin is trying to contract. Well, you have this yin-yang kind of relationship going on there. Within the air itself, there's yin-yang. Within the tissue of the skin itself, there's yin-yang as well. In other words, it is expanding, but it's trying to contract. So you have that going on as well. That makes things difficult to talk about, but that's the way things are, so we just have to work around that. This is important for our next two aikis. And it's also obviously fundamental to Aiki number 1. So Aiki 1 and Aiki 2 and Aiki 3 are the phenomena. Kokyu Yoku facilitates that phenomena. So if I were to pump more air into this ball and the skin was strong enough, it would expand, and then the skin would have to contain that. It would come under more tension. Now, we happen to be smart balls. So when we pump more air, when we apply tension to this, then over time, the skin of our ball adapts and becomes stronger. It's able to stretch, but it's also very, very strong about the stretching because it knows that this is happening to it. All right? So when we work our kokyu yoku, when we're doing kokyu dosa, when we're doing breath exercise, we generally work two things. We work the pump, and then we also work the skin. The skin is necessary to work the pump. If I'm pumping into nothingness, the pump isn't going to get stronger. The skin is dependent on the pump, because if there's no pump to put pressure and tension on the skin isn't going to get any stronger. So there again, you have this yin-yang kind of relationship going on. So that's why we do the breath exercises. Now, interestingly enough, it is not completely dependent on the breath. All right? In other words, we learn to be able to expand this out and have tension in this so that it doesn't deform, okay? And yet it doesn't have to be completely breath dependent in order to do that. So you can have kokyu yoku without having to go su haku all the time. Okay. In fact, if you're going to be able to use this expeditiously, you need to be able to separate those two. But for training and conditioning, that is a powerful method of training the tissue. Okay. And usually the exercises are divided into kind of two camps. One camp is to train the pump, and the other camp is to train the tissue. Now, there are other ways to train the tissue as well. If I push on the tissue, the pressure increases, then you're going to adaptation. If I twist the tissue, pressure increases, you get adaptation. So oftentimes when we do kokyu dosa, then we combine those two. All right. And for those of you who think of kokyu dosa as a exercise where somebody's grabbing you and you're throwing them over, you can see by this definition that has really nothing to do with that. That's just kind of a byproduct. And it's a tangent that you can get lost on really quite easily. In fact, most people have gotten completely lost on that, such that the very term that everybody understands and knows is misconceived. All right, so there's your kokyu byoku, okay? Now let's talk about Aiki 2, all right? Okay, so this is three-dimensional. It's rotating, all right? It's going to rotate. It's rotating on a singular plane, all right? That is what defines it as Aiki 2. Some people use the model of yin and yang like this, okay? Well, there's a lot of interpenetration again going on here. All right, there's the stiffness of this that has yin yang. There's this there. We just got done talking about this that has yin and yang in it. This on the ground is communicating a force that's going this way that supports this. This has solidity in it, just like this does, but it's also, and this has gravity in it, just like this does. This one has gravity acting upon it, supposedly balanced in my model here, and this one's going this way. In order to be a balance, it's reliant upon both. On top of that, we have a force going this way. If there was only this, it would go like this, right? But in this model, we have a force going this way on this side of the fulcrum and a force going this way on this side of the fulcrum, and it defines the balance of the thing.